Pull up, grab the fuel nozzle, and get ready to fuel up on trends and strategies to grow your travel center business in this episode of the Truckstop's Ear, brought to you by Natso. Now, here's your host, Amy Toner.
Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the Truckstop's Ear. I'm your host, Amy Toner, and I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Darren Schulte. Hi, Darren.
Hi, Amy. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. You are listening to the Truckstop's Ear, NATSO's podcast. NATSO is the National Trade Association for Truck Stops, and our mission is to advance the success of truck stops and travel centers, and this podcast is just one of the many ways that we do that. Today, Darren and I have the pleasure of interviewing Elliot Duarte. Hey, Elliot.
Hello, Amy. How are you?
Good. Welcome. So Elliot is an independent consultant who's working with NATSO, bringing his vast expertise in the truck stop business to NATSO. He has opened 30 stores. He has 23 years in the business, and we are so lucky that he is here to talk to us today about the recently created Truck Stops and Travel Center Employee Retention Guide for NATSO. So this is a new publication that NATSO's put out that will be on our website at www.natso.com/retention guide for sale. But because this is such an important issue to truck stops, we thought Elliot could answer a few questions for us about retention. Okay. Can you tell us why employee retention is so important to a company, Elliot?
Yes, Amy. First of all, thank you for having me on the show today.
Yeah.
Employee retention is one of the main factors that allows a business to be successful. A lot of times we just associate turnover with hiring and firing employees and don't really evaluate the side implications that this has on a macro level. I came across an article published by Forbes on May 19, 2019. In one particular sentence that caught my attention, it said, the cost of turnover can kill your business and make things less fun. According to a study done by the Society of Human Resources Management, employee turnover had a price tag of over $680 billion in 2020. Also, according to the Investopedia reports, it costs around $3,500 to replace an $8 an hour employee. This includes recruiting, hiring, training, and just to do some quick math, if you have 50 employees and you have about a 50% annual turnover rate, that will cost a business about $87,000 a year. In my experiences with truck stops, I've seen turnover as low as in the mid-20s and over 300%. In addition, this can directly impact your labor line, and it's just the monetary cost associated with it is just enormous. Not to mention the morale and other aspects of the business that can be impacted by it. So it's really, really important.
Absolutely. And I feel like the timing is perfect, right? Because we're hearing from NATSO members that in 2020, their retention probably was better because there was less jobs. But right now is probably a time when more jobs are opening up, and it's really important to focus on this.
Yes, I mean, you can go anywhere without seeing now hiring signs all over the place. Everybody's hiring, and you got to be the employer of choice so you can retain these employees.
Elliot, what caused you, when you and I started talking about adding some material to the library, some additional handbooks and toolkits, what was it that caused you to think about retention? In other words, so we started talking, visiting, you and I were visiting stores together. What caused you to think about, hey, this is the first manual we should start working on to get out to our members? Was there one particular thing that popped into your head during visits and so forth?
Yes. Talking to the operators, talking to the senior management, and that's the concern they have. They're hiring employees, and they're not able to keep them in the stores, and it's creating a lot of problems for them in training, in stock positions, in customer service. It's impacting the whole business. And when I talk to different employers in senior management, the one thing they mentioned. How do we keep employees? One particular case, this one owner, he told me that he had um, turned over 60 people within 3 months. Imagine the dollars that's costing him. It's pretty high.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Is there any particular project you're working on? I've been helping anyone. Again, don't mention a name or anything, but I think you're working on a project with someone specifically related to retention. You've been helping someone up in the Midwest?
Yes, we're looking at employee retention, and granted, it's not a silver bullet. We say, all right, do these three things and you're done, right? Or in a matter of 2 weeks, if you do this steps, it's going to solve it. It's a culture change. Is we're going to have to go back and go from the interview process and go to the hiring process and just in general everything that needs to happen. But yeah, I mean, it was especially specifically requested by him that we take a look at this concern that he has.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think the things you've noticed from your background, especially with some of our independent members that have asked for assistance, is you have to start from the beginning. You have to kind of like literally, how would you say it, repave the road or, start a new garden for whatever the right terminologies are. You can't just take the situation and think you're going to fix it. So that's a really good point.
And then it's a cycle. You start on top with recruiting, the hiring, the training, the mentorship programs, and then it comes back, and you got to keep doing it all over and over again. And but like I said, it's a culture change in a lot of cases.
I think we've kind of answered this, but what would you say the impact of high turnover can be?
Well, it affects many different things. First of all, there's the monetary impact, and a lot of times we don't feel it because it's just part of our labor. We pay the recruiting company a certain amount of dollars. We train people. We sit next to people and train them. So you're paying two employees to do one job, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Customer service is not there. If you have a new person that doesn't know how to order merchandise, and you're out of your in-stock position is not there, your customer service suffers, your sales suffer, and there's a lot of side impacts that we don't notice right away, but it's because of a high turnover.
I think that's a good point, especially when you reference the experience piece. Again, not that I did a lot of traveling during COVID. There was just a few times I jumped in the car and drove out. But because of the rash of turnover, because of, maybe they were struggling for whatever reason to get a particular staff member, you saw experiences change dramatically. And for us on the road, for our customers who want speed, who want, to get in and get out quick, there's nothing more frustrating than waiting in line, for 5-10 minutes because the staff isn't properly trained.
And if you think about it, you may be in the store for 30 minutes, don't even think about the time you're there. As soon as you get into the line to pay, time changes.
Mm-hmm.
It's 30 seconds seems like 2 hours in line. So that's another impact. Your customer service just suffers. If the person doesn't know he has to empty the trashes, you're going to go outside and you have a filthy place. There's so much associated with it that we have to do a special podcast just to touch on that.
Okay, tell us your ideas for improving a company's employee retention.
Well, like I said, it starts with you need to be looking for an employee before you need an employee. If you wait to you need that employee to start looking for an employee, you are already too late because you're already paying overtime. You're already putting stress on other employees to cover shifts. So the most important thing is to be looking before you actually need the employee. By the time you need the employee, you either have a part-time already hired or you have 3 people in mind that you're going to call. And just the onboarding time, it gets reduced drastically. Once you have the employee, you got to train the employee. You got to take your time to show the employee what you want, your expectations, how to do the job, set them up for success. A lot of times we're so far behind that we get a warm body, come to the store, and you know how to sweep, right? All right, go sweep. But we don't tell them exactly what we need and how we need it done. And then 3 months later, we go back and tell, hey, how come you're not doing the job the way you're supposed to do it? We don't train the employee properly. Once we train the employee, give them more responsibility. People want to be engaged in the workplace. People want what's next. If I'm already doing, if I'm cashiering, can I do some receiving? Can I do some stocking? Can I do different things? A lot of times we think employees, they don't want more work. But if you tell them, this is a growth path for you, then they're gonna accept these extra duties and be in line for the next position available. So you hire the employee, you train the employee right, you give him a career path, you mentor this employee, and then you start all over again. You go to the next employee, and you got to be doing this constantly, constantly, constantly. And go ahead there. Sorry.
No, please jump in.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask you, I know there's not one single magic bullet, Elliot, as you referenced, but if you were to give a new owner who's building a travel center or a new store manager, if you were going to tell them just one thing, like, Matt, no matter what you do of these parts, let's say they've read through the retention manual, what is the least thing they cannot do? In other words, what is the most important piece of that entire puzzle? I understand it's all important, but what is the most important part that they need to do at a minimum, would you say?
Well, it's if you're building a house, you want a solid foundation. That would be your interviewing process, your hiring process. You want to make sure you have the right person for the right job, not just bring in someone who might do the job and he's available, so let's go. So that's number one. That your foundation is your hiring process, your interview process. Just going through the applications and see who's a good fit on paper, talking to them, and give them the time for the interview, and so you can get to know that person and see what their values are and what their expectations of you are. Because just as we have expectations of the employee has expectations of the employer. So if the one thing that we're going to do is take our time in the hiring process.
Okay, cool. So another quick question for you. So in talking to some of the members, the ones that you had projects with and some of the calls you've listened on, and also some of the stores we visited, what do you think of this entire process? What is the one area that you think we're missing the most on? So again, we've visited a couple stores together. We've and did reviews. We've actually visited sites and just looked at customer experience, looked at the stores, and then you've been on some calls. So would you say it is the interviewing process, or is there something else that jumped out on you that you've seen specifically in the last, say, year that you've noticed is an area that also needs to get worked on?
Well, it's the interview process. It's the training process. It's the being a leader rather than a boss. It's being
Can
there
you
with
jump
them.
into that? Yeah. Can you expand on that?
Yes. Well, a boss will come in and say, "Hey, you guys got to clean the pumps," and walk away. A leader would take you to the pump and say, "Hey, I need your help cleaning this pump, and let's work together on it. Let me show you how I want it done. Um, let's take notes while we're at it. You do it with them. You you're pulling them to do the job instead of just pushing them away and telling them this is what you got to do. You work side by side with them. You are a servant leader, in other words. Um, and we put a quote there that one of our mentors, once said to us is, you cannot properly serve your employees, your customers, until you properly service your employees. That's a quote by Keith Kirkpatrick, and that's true. You got to give your employees the right tools to be able to do the job. If you don't set them up for success, your business is not going to succeed. So, yes, training them, make sure you're work with them. When you walk into the store, you go and say hello to all employees. If you have custodians in the back cleaning showers, go say hi to them. How's their day going? They're human beings, and they want that connection with their leader, and that'll help them do their work better. If you have that communication with them, and ask them, sometimes tell me, what can we do better here? If in the times that we travel there, and the cashiers had some great ideas, they have the connection with the customers,
Mm-hmm.
and they're hearing what the customers are needing and wanting, and that's ultimately who pays the bills, the customers. And if they're communicating this to their cashiers, so we should be communicating with their cashiers and see what's the communication being sent from the customers, and implement those ideas to better serve our customers, and the profits will come. It's about serving, and the profits will come.
Elliot, I think that's a really powerful statement. We did notice a significant difference in how stores were ran that had floor generals. And what I mean by that were either the assistant manager or the store manager was physically on the floor, in many ways almost like guiding traffic, for lack of better words, and versus the stores we visited where the store manager was in the office, right? Or, we had to ask for the store manager to come out and visit with us versus those that were already on the floor helping staff. So that's a good point.
All right. Did we cover everything, Elliot?
Um,
Do we get all the nuggets out of your brain?
well, not yet. I mean, there's so much, and in this particular topic that the one thing when we visit stores and people say, "Hey, what can we do right now?
Yep.
What can I just right now that's not going to cost me a lot of money that I'm going to be able to implement, and I'm going to start the path of lower turnover and higher retention. What can I do right now?" And that's one of the things we talked about. Go, and when you walk in, say hi to your employees. Be there for them. Ask them how their day's going. Request feedback. Um, if an employee is doing a task and you see him struggling, jump in there and do it with them. If you showed little Joe how to brew coffee 5 times already, and Joe is still not knowing exactly how to do it, jump in there and show him 6 times. Sometimes it takes us 10 times to learn something. Not because we know how to do it, it means they know how to do it. Congratulate them on their birthday. Have a welcome celebration as they for the first day of they're hired, and introduce them to the employees. Just make them part of the family. One of the big ones that I always had when I was a manager was uh, days requesting days off. If an employee needed a day off, didn't matter for what. They didn't have to lie to me and tell me they were sick. They're like, "Hey, if you want to go to the concert, there's a movie, Matrix 4 is coming out, and I want to go see it. then put on the calendar, and I'm going to make the best effort that I can to give you the day. And I'll let you know in advance so you can plan ahead. But you can go see that movie. A lot of times our egos are, no, you take the days off that I tell you to take. That's a real simple one that doesn't cost you any money. And employees appreciate that, being able to have honesty and communicate with you, even if it's something that you think is so small as going to watch a movie, for them might be a big deal. So we'll stop here because we're gonna go into another 2 hours on this. But anything else?
You sound like an excellent boss. Okay, well, before we leave, we have to ask you our funny fast fill questions, which I don't like to share, so they're a surprise. There are just a few quick questions.
All right.
What is your go-to on the road snack?
Cherry sours.
What?
Yes,
I haven't gotten that one.
Yeah, cherry sours.
A lot of my employees, they before I would leave the stores, they would come up to me and say, "Hey, Elliot, you're not taking your cherry sours." And it's like, yeah. And they knew that from me.
That's funny. Okay, if you're stuck at a truck stop in a snowstorm, how do you pass the time?
Well, hopefully this truck stop has a movie theater, or if I'm just gonna chill, then I'm gonna go and just be there with the truck drivers and talk to them and listen to what they have to say, because you can learn a lot from talking to truck drivers, the things they go through, the stories they tell, just in general, the knowledge you can gain from them. And some of them are teachers, some of them were engineers, and they had different professions before becoming a truck driver. And it's just so amazing to be able to talk to these people.
Okay. Do you prefer to ride or drive? Passenger or driver?
I enjoy them both. I like to control the steering wheel, but if I'm not, then I'll take a nap on the passenger seat.
All right.
Like that.
How do you like your truck stop coffee?
I like milk with coffee.
Okay.
Milk and sugar with coffee.
Me too. I'm with you. Me too. My father-in-law makes fun of me.
It's a liquid candy bar. That's how I drink.
And it wakes you up. That's perfect. I like it. Okay.
Yep.
All right. We're going to end with a controversial question. Is it truck stop, travel center, or travel plaza?
Amy, this is not a controversial question. It's truck stop.
No. All right. Okay. And how can people get a hold of you if they want to reach out to you about consulting with Natso?
The best way is find me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I'm under my name, Elliot Duarte.
Yep.
And contact Natso. And I've been doing some work with Natso, and I really enjoy it. Darren is just is a bulk of knowledge and guidance, and Don is amazing too. I've had some time with you, Amy, and you're great too. And it's just an amazing company. And go through Natso, and we'll go to your store and talk about your store and see how we can improve and find the low hanging fruit.
Perfect. Okay. And as I said at the beginning, people can buy the new guide at www.natso.com/retention guide. Okay. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Truck Stops Here. You can find us online at www.natso.com/podcast. If you have any questions or any questions for Elliot or Darren, you can reach out to me at editor@natso.com. Thanks for listening. Bye, guys.
Bye, Amy. Bye, Elliot.
Bye, Darren, baby.
The Truck Stops Here was brought to you by Natso, the association representing truck stops and travel centers. Visit natso.com for more information. The Truck Stops Here is produced by Natso in collaboration with Human Factor. Producers are Amy Toner and Darren Schulte.